Hey, Max, what are we doing today?
Well, you know how we've been talking a lot of music recently? We've been talking with bands like Nate Perry and Ragged Company and David Wildman from Tell.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to do it all over again, this time with the band Falsely Accused.
What are they falsely accused of?
We can't talk about that. We can't talk about that. But what we can talk about is the band's recent EP, Unbroken, practicing in a chicken barn turned studio, working with Kennedy Studios in Burlington, Mass., and their upcoming show at the Middle East upstairs.
Citywide blackout starts right now.
Welcome to Citywide Blackout with your hosts, Max Bowen and Curtis Hughes. With years of experience in journalism, music, and entertainment business, they put their knowledge to work, bringing you the best in-depth, fun, and sometimes outrageously bizarre interviews with authors, musicians, and many other creators from around the world. With the right amount of gusto and a few F-bombs thrown in for emphasis, you're sure to have a good time. So put up your feet, grab a beverage, and let's go.
This is far from your first band, Falsely Accused. You guys have some pretty deep, musical backgrounds. I'd like to kick this off by just kind of asking, what were you doing before, Falsely Accused came to be?
Want to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I'll go first. Yeah,
Go first. He's got the shortest story.
yeah. I am the youngest in the band by far.
Hey,
Yeah, I started playing music. So it's funny. My grandfather actually owned an old chicken barn. We actually still have our studio in this barn, and he converted it into practice space for bands when I was a little kid. And so he turned it from a chicken coop into 20 different rooms, and pretty well-known bands would rent it. Reveille is a band out of Massachusetts that used to rent it. There's a bunch of other ones. And so I just grew up around musical equipment, stuff like that. And back then, there weren't lease agreements. If somebody didn't pay their rent, he'd throw a lock on the door and say, "You want your stuff, pay your rent." They wouldn't. And I just got a bunch of musical equipment. So I went from, piano to drums to guitar, and I'd usually sell stuff to get his rent back and then keep what was ever left. And that's how I got into music. And I started playing in bands as a drummer. No one really wanted a piano player in their rock band when I was a kid. So yeah, played in a bunch of different rock bands. We were in a band in high school called Out of Luck. It was like an original, really bad band. I was the lead singer and drummer. And then, formed a band called Shepherd's Pie that turned into a band called the Reebs. And then that's when Matt joined, and we did that for a few years until we built this iteration, which is Falsely Accused. So that's my story. But Matt and Mark have been in a bunch more bands and done a little bit more than I have. So
it had been when I hooked up with the Reebs. When we rolled the dice on, we all rolled the dice on Craigslist, but back then, it had been maybe 10 years since I had played in a band. And the last one was this band called Bell Nell Dogs. And we did some original stuff, and it didn't really take off. And so it ended up fizzling out, as those things do. But it had been a while. And so, I reached out to Mike. They were looking for a bass player. And up to then, I had never been a singer in a band. I always wanted to, but I'd never done it. And so, Mike and the guys took me in as this total stranger, as tends to happen. We just settled in, and then they started letting me experiment with trying vocals, and that kind of took off. And then when those other two dudes left, it was just me and Mike, and we're like, well, we need to keep this going. And so we rolled the dice again and found Mark, and that's been great. But this is it's been a fantastic arc, I think, from what the Reebs started as to where we are now. And that was like 9 years ago this year, I think. So Mike and I have been playing together a long time, and Falsely Accused has been going since 2019. So we're in our 6th year, which has been great. A lot of musical growth, I think, for all of us in that time.
I like how it's almost like chronological order. But I was I've been in bands since high school. First band ever, Whipped Cream, kind of like a play on words from the band Cream, because we were also a power trio. But no, several different, just kind of startup bands, nothing really all that serious. But I actually started out taking classical lessons. That's how I got into guitar. And then I saw a lot of the classical themes that you saw in this neo-classical movement, if you're familiar with that. But it's like metal and, incorporating a lot of classical themes. I always had kind of a background just listening to rock, but I wanted to apply kind of what I was doing with guitar more to the rock stuff. So ended up getting into a little more serious bands and writing music, playing some covers. I had always taken lessons, like I still take lessons. Coincidentally, Matt's uncle, by 100% coincidence. So the band before this, we put a band called Route 150. We put out a couple of albums, and just we kind of came to the end of what we were doing. I was looking for another project, and I really wanted a trio. I love the idea of a trio. I wasn't going to settle for just like some guys that are like kicking the can. Both very talented musicians, and I felt like we gelled well. And we started out just doing covers, and then I kind of, I think we all were thinking, hey, we could start writing some original stuff. So we had a couple of original tunes, and we were playing out. We were doing a lot of, hybrid gigs where mostly covers, but we would sprinkle in some of our originals. And COVID hit, and we lost a lot of those venues, as you can imagine. We went on to write a little more original music since we're not playing out. We got into the studio. So we came up with 10 songs. That was our first album, Compression. Yeah, and then fast forward, we got back into it after COVID. We basically had to rebuild from scratch, started writing new tunes, and then so now we've got some momentum, and we've got Unbroken out.
When we started, I had no idea that Mark was taking classical guitar lessons from my uncle. So he rolled in one day and he's like, hey, do you know this guy with your same last name? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I know him. Known him for a long time. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I'm taking lessons from him. And I love that cosmic connection,
Yeah,
that like,
absolutely.
It all kind of, I don't know. I would never have known otherwise. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah,
He'll have to sit down on one of our albums. He'll be like one of these guest musicians, We'll hire him as a
I don't know why we haven't done that yet, to be honest.
I know.
Well, I mean, I do, but
I don't want to show me up. That's probably why.
Right?
And Mike, man, I gotta say, having your grandfather redo a chicken barn into the studio is such a cool origin story.
Yeah, it was a special place kind of growing up. It was like as a kid, I had to go clean up the puke in the sink and like the beer cans that were left over, and like kind of full circle now. We've got a room in there. I've been playing in that barn for 15 years. My dad had a band in there. And so it's just kind of become home. It's gross. It smells like a rock studio, right? Like there's just cigarettes and weed and beer everywhere, anywhere you walk, but it's good rent. And it's a good spot to be able to turn up real loud and play. So it's fun.
I will say, I remember that from our first conversation when we're talking on the phone, and you're like, by the way, this place is gross. It was exactly the same thing. And I was like, I would expect nothing less. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you walk in, it's all clean, smells clean. Like, wait, am I even like the right place? This can't be a studio.
Are we playing jazz?
No, right? We're like a classical band all of a sudden. What the hell?
The more disgusting the space, the more character it builds.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
Like it's like that, and like band stickers. If the walls are not covered in band stickers and decals, you're in the wrong spot.
I want a sticker in the urinal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Multiple
I don't
stickers.
Want to put it there.
I'm always like, somebody was either really drunk or really brave or really stupid.
All of those things.
Exactly.
Yes.
And Mike, does this cool place have a name?
We just call it the Big Red Barn or the Barn.
That works.
But yeah, there's never been a dubbed name, but it's very well known in the Central Mass area. If you talk to musicians and you talk about the barn, they're like, oh, I know a guy that played there. I was in a band that played there. And so it's actually really funny. My wife's aunt and uncle, who are in their 70s now, I think, 20 years ago when I first met my wife, we were talking and I was telling them about this barn, and they're like, wait a second, the Red Barn? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, we used to go there all the time in the 80s. And like they knew it. And so like it is a thing. It's not my family anymore, but we were able to once we sold it, still maintain the room. So we still have a nice room in there, which is cool.
I love it. And no origin story would be complete without a name. How did they Falsely Accused come to be?
Well,
Next question.
we could tell you, but non-disclosure agreements and affidavits, they kind of prevent us from sharing the story.
Say no more. Are the cops outside? Uh-oh.
Yeah, right.
Moving on.
So let's get down to brass tacks then. So why don't we talk about the new EP you guys have, Unbroken? What's the story behind the 5 song collection you guys have for this?
Where to begin on that?
That's a good question. I think there's no particular theme, I don't think, running through the album, but I like the story of Mike kind of came up with the concept of the album art and how the title works with the album art, which I think is really great. And I think can explain it better than I can.
Yeah. We were kind of back. We had a lot of different options for what we wanted to name the album. And we kind of always go back and forth and try to come up with names. Like we usually have a list and then we go through the list and we say, nope, if everybody's aligned, we just throw that out the window. And we had kind of all landed at this place where we thought Unbroken was really cool. And then we had this album art of like a shattered kind of broken record, right? And the thought process there is a little bit of a play on words, a little artistic, where no matter how shattered, broken that record looks, like your music lives on, right? Like people, even if they heard it once and the record shattered, you know, you've got a piece of their ear, a piece of their brain forever type of vibe. And so like that was really what we were going for with the title and the artwork, which it came out really cool. We were happy with the way it looked and how it showed up on print, which was cool.
When we submitted it for what was it, like Spotify, I think?
Yeah, it was CD Baby.
Oh,
we to send it out for distribution. They kicked it back to us. They rejected the artwork. And I'm like, it's like the least offensive artwork ever. And it was like, well, it represented physical media. So people would think that if they click on it, they're actually getting a record. So they kicked it back to us. So the digital album cover is slightly different than the actual album cover to make it all work. But yeah, that was like an 11th hour thing that happened, and it was total chaos for that last day, and then we got it figured out. But
I actually kind of like how the new artwork came out, though. I like because we ended up you couldn't have it because it was a picture of a record. And supposedly somebody probably got sued at some point. Oh, I thought I was getting a record. So, you know, we just distorted the image, so it's clearly not like a real record. But we ended up blowing up like one section of it, right, Matt? I think you took like a part of it, blew it up. So
I cropped the top of it or whatever.
Yeah, it almost looks kind of like a Horizon now with, you know, it's the record pieces coming off of it. So it was kind of serendipitous. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, maybe that was kind of a good thing.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
And of course, you mentioned like the 11th hour chaos. That's how all bands operate at their best, right? It's like, okay, guys, we got a show tomorrow. We need a name for the band, and that's when it like comes to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was total chaos in like the last day or so. And that it got kicked back, and then it took like, I don't know, it took a week. I sent the new stuff in, and then it was forever, and they didn't give you any notification. So we were at like, you know, the day before it came out, and it's still not approved. And it finally, at the last minute, they approved it, and we were able to get it out. But it was because we're trying to do a record release and launch the whole thing. It was definitely it was not without stress, to say the least.
The one thing you can always plan on is nothing goes to plan.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
Where did you guys end up doing the recording for this record? It's got a lot of high energy and punch and
Kennedy Studios in Burlington.
Mark found him for the first record, Compression, Steve Alaperta over at Kennedy Studios in Burlington, Mass. And when we went in for the first record, he was really enthusiastic about the work, and we thought he did a great job engineering it and mixing it. And so there was really no question when we wanted to do the EP that we'd go right back to him, because he's got a great method he's a drummer himself, and he has a great method for recording drums and good ideas. And what I like the most about working with him is that when we were doing something stupid, he wouldn't be afraid to tell us, like, that's not working, let's try it a different way. And you know, I thought that kind of feedback was very valuable, because you don't want to be going down the wrong path and maybe missing something. So I thought he was fantastic to work with. I couldn't recommend him enough.
Yeah, he's a drummer, but he's a multi-instrumentalist, so he also has a great ear. So whenever we would do, like, especially if my guitar was a little out of intonation, like, that's not quite right. And he would go through some pains to get it right, which, I mean, we all wanted. So, but it was nice for him, like Matt said, like, he would call us out if something didn't sound right. And, you know, we'd bounce ideas off of him. And it's also just good when you're in a studio, because we're all together. It's, you know, there's like a different vibe. So sometimes we come up with a lot of ideas just being in the studio.
Yeah, and it was really important to us to use the same process for the EP, right? We had done our first album with Steve and Kennedy Studios, and we loved how full and big the sound was, especially for a trio. And so it was really important to us to kind of go back. And the studio is awesome all of his equipment incredible, and he does a really, really good job. And so we make days out of it when we go and, grab a few beers, get some pizzas, and just like go rip through it. And it's great. And he does some unique stuff. Like he'll put, not to give all the secrets away, but he'll put, there's different rooms off of the main recording room where like the drums are, as an example, and he'll put ambient microphones in other parts of the building and use some of those recordings so that the drums are fuller and sound different. And there's just unique stuff like that he's experimented with and found to work well, that just really helped make it as full and as big as it was, which is cool.
Right. That's a consistent theme that I hear about both albums. Like great production.
Which song off of the EP would you guys say was the most fun to produce and record in the studio?
That's a good question. I'd toss out Castaway and Drink Before the War. Those are probably the most fun. Drifting was some work. Soul Crush was a ton of work. And Witches went really fast. I think Witches, we went in with the most complete idea or complete picture of what Witches was going to be. But the other ones took some crafting. But I think Castaway and Drink would be my choices. I'd leave it up to the boys.
Yeah, I'd agree with Drink. I don't know what you think, Mark.
Yeah, I would say probably Drink, because that came together very quickly, and it's kind of like an upbeat tune.
Yeah, there's
I think was it the first song that we wrote on the album?
That was the first one, yeah. And
it was, yeah.
It was really cool. We were sitting in the studio and we had recorded, drums first, and you record to a click and then you layer on everything else. And so it usually, it doesn't always come together in one session, right? Like we'll have drums and rhythm laid down, but then we got to come in with Mark solos and vocals and all that stuff. And we were sitting there and I'm like, all of us were talking about what we wanted the intro to sound like. And on that song, there's this drum hit that kind of sucks you into the song. And there was another song I was sharing with him by a different artist that I was like, that's a really cool thing. And we ended up figuring out we can reverse the snare hit, right? And so it makes this kind of like sucked in sound get into the song. And so there was just like fun, special stuff like that made writing that song really fun. And I think more importantly, like recording it more fun, because we were able to add some of the sounds that we really wanted. And there's little things like even in Witches where, you've got the sound of the broken glass and like just different elements that were important to us. We actually like really thought about what that should sound like. And yeah, a lot goes into it, but it's a really good time.
Yeah, even little things like the glass, there's a lot of back and forth. Of course, like, we get these iterations and we'll make corrections, but even the glass thing was like, can you like make it a little longer? And then, it has to be a little quieter, but no, now a little louder. So just like for the glass, the sound of the glass, it took like 3 different versions.
Cool.
The other cool thing was we have a video that goes along with Drink. So that it was kind of fun just to make the video for that song.
Oh, nice. When you guys were making Unbroken, did you get the chance to try like anything new, stuff that maybe you had wanted to do before but didn't for whatever reason?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of. I can think of a few things just. From my guitar perspective, some solos that were definitely different for me. I tried to use some different modes, a lot of Dorian mode on this one, and I did, like some finger tapping, like that I never really did on an album before. Nothing crazy, but it's like, all right, just push it, do something a little different.
Yeah.
And I think we also like the first album. I'm biased. I think it rocked, and but we didn't want to just write the same album. So I think we were kind of holding each other's feet to the fire. Like, let's push this part a little bit more. Let's add more, more harmonies and things like that.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about this prior to the show, but Mark, your solo with Witches, man, holy shit, dude, that fucking rocked.
Well, thank you. Oh, high praise. Thank you so much.
I was just absolutely amazing. Like that is like my like favorite song off the album, which is a hard thing to pick actually, because they're all great.
They're all great.
Yeah, but like Witches was like,
thank you, man.
Love that one. Very cool.
That's cool.
How would you say the band's kind of grown between doing Compression in 21 and then Unbroken in 25?
I think we've learned to stretch a little bit. Maybe is a way to put it, in that a lot of the songs or parts of the songs required some faith from all of us, right? So, for example, when we started Drink, I hated it, didn't like it at all, and then it eventually became something that I'm like, I'm just going to have faith in the process and something's going to come from this. And eventually it did. And not even so much in the recording process, because we got to a point before we recorded it that I knew that I had fallen in love with it at that point. But with a handful of these songs, I think we all had to trust each other a little bit, because there was some, I think, experimentation, and we had to trust the process, that we knew how we wrote songs together. But, as we were sort of feeling out this new stuff, kind of having faith that it's going to turn into something we love. And so for me, at the outset, it was Drink. And I think we've all had that song. I think we could probably each pick a song that we're like, I don't know. And then it became a thing that was like, oh, that's the thing, And so I think from Compression, it was the first record together. And so maybe still some of that, but this one felt a little bit more like we were trying some new techniques, and I was trying to sing a little different, and Mark was working on different modes, and Mike's technique was changing. And so that all with that intention of making a different sound and making a different record. But I think maybe we had to have a little more trust in the process, when we were trying to push the walls a little bit.
It's funny, right? Like what you don't hear on the EP, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it on there, and there's a lot of songs that we wrote that we'll still work on. It might end up on the next EP, but like we as a band have always sat down and said, like, if we're not feeling it, like let's let it go, and I think we do a good job digging our heels in and fighting for something when we're passionate. Like, no, it actually sounds sick, we just need to work it. And so there's a lot of stuff that got thrown out, and I think like that's an evolution for us as a band in itself, just being able to have enough trust and synergy, to Matt's point, where like you're like, all right, I'll keep going on this even though I'm not feeling it yet, and then all of a sudden it turns in to something cool. And I think the only part I'd add, Matt, is I think on the vocal side too, like we did some, or you did, I didn't do any of it, but you did some unique harmonies and things that we really didn't have on Compression, that I think gave the songs a lot more depth. And we had we had some other vocalists on the album as well, which was really cool, to give us just kind of a different sound, which was neat. So
yeah, we on Drifting, I was in just recording vocals, Steve and I, and I'm singing the chorus part, and I'm like, it's thin, it needs something, and I couldn't quite put my finger on. I'm like, it needs more texture, it needs something. And so Steve's sibling Cam was renting a practice room on the other side of the building. He's like, oh, I'll text Cam, she'll come down. So Cam came in, I wrote the words to the chorus, and he goes, okay, sing this. And what we got was this incredible harmony that absolutely made that song for me. Like I liked it anyway going in, but when we got that harmony back and mixed and what it was supposed to sound like, I got chills hearing it. I still do, because it was just incredible. And I really wanted to experiment with having someone else sing on the record. I didn't really know anybody well enough, and it just happened to be right place, right time. And what we got was this incredible harmony in the chorus that beefs it up and makes it so huge. I love that part of the recording process where you have that holy crap moment of this is the thing. We had it on Compression with drones, and the acoustic fade out, and I remember sitting there. I'm like, that's how that song ends. It was like this mind blowing moment. And so in the recording process of this, I've been waiting for it. I'm like, I know it's going to come, but I don't know what it's going to look like. And then we had Cam singing harmonies, and I'm like, oh, I was so excited about it. And that was a leap for us as well, I think, for all of us, because I didn't ask them. I was like, we're just doing this and we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
And they worked out great.
It's hard to imagine it now without it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we could get Cam to come do gigs with us, but I would ask. I would be cool?
Yeah. So looking at your past show list, you guys have played many different places. Do you guys have any regular spots, any favorites that you like to go to? Future stuff, bucket list places that you haven't played to that you like?
We definitely have plenty of bucket list places. I think, regular spots, Lowell's become like a really good scene for us. It's a good scene for music right now, in my opinion. There's a lot of bars working really hard to get live music kind of back post COVID, right? And so we've really been playing that area, I'd say the most frequently, in my opinion. Thirsty First right there is that Market Street, I think. And then right down the street from them, you've got Warp and Weft. And so like those are some spots that we've been playing pretty regularly. Yeah, the Worthen, that's another one we played. That's one of I think that's the oldest bar in Lowell, which is also pretty cool. And yeah, and then we make our way into the Boston scene. We're with the Jungle and the Midway Cafe and some of those. But yeah, there's a long list, I think, of places that we'd love to break into.
We all have a favorite. I'll bet we can all say it at the same time.
Yeah, right.
What's that?
The Burn.
The Burn, yeah, that was probably our best show ever.
Oh God, yeah.
We lucked out getting a bill there. We played the whole night, and it was full. I mean, I
almost stage dived. I was like that close to jumping, and then I thought better of it. I'm like, I'm over 40. I've had surgery. Probably not a great idea, but
it was great.
It was a great show. It was an incredible show.
Yeah, we lucked out too. We had hired a photographer for that because we had known it was going to be a good one, and so we got to capture that moment for us band, which was neat. Right. And yeah, we played the Shaskins, another one up in Manchester, New Hampshire. Yeah. We played that now probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 times. They always have a great crowd and great sound. So, and we've got the Middle East coming up in June, which is a spot we have not conquered as a band. I know Mark and Matt have both played there in other iterations. I've actually never played there, but I've frequented there as a fan many, many times. And so we're really excited to get to play that on June 12th with a bunch of great bands. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't think we would have really thought of like Lowell as this like major like music scene area, but it really has become that in recent years, especially. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Burn. Oh my God, the Burn has been some of my favorite shows over the years. That's one of the best places, if not the best, in Boston. Yeah, it really is. And of course, like the Middle East is not just a great place to play, but it's such like a busy area any kind of night of the week. So you can just like hang out there and just like people watch like crazy. It's always like fun for that too. I've been to some pretty great shows up and downstairs too. Is it gonna be like an upstairs show or downstairs?
We're upstairs.
It's upstairs.
Upstairs is good. Upstairs is really good.
Yeah.
Love that place.
It's been I don't want to tell you, it's been a long time since I played the upstairs, but it's one of those places that I thought as this band is a place we should get into, because I think it's a great venue, and I like that it's kind of central in Boston music.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Lowell scene. It's incredible to me as well. I mean, before when we had some great shows at the Old Thirsty, when it was down the other end of Central Street and kind of gross, but always fun on the inside. I think Mike and I have independently both nearly been mugged in that parking lot, in the old parking lot, a couple of times.
Yep.
Yeah. But we always had great shows inside, and so they closed and then they reopened in Market Street, and I'm close with the owners, and they've always been great to us. But the Warp is such a great room. Kodo opened up a place there, which I've been trying to get us into. And it's surprising to me, how vibrant the scene, and Taffeta, we haven't talked about Taffeta, is right down the street. I mean, there's so much going on there, seemingly all of a sudden. I think it's awesome because it makes local music a little bit more accessible to people that aren't going to go to Boston to see a band they've never heard. I think it's fantastic.
They also have auditoriums. I mean, there's the Songus Arena.
Yeah.
Auditorium. So like they have venues where like bigger bands can come. And I wonder if that just kind of helps the ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you mentioned the Warp and Weft. We actually talked about that with our guest for last week's show, and I had to look up what that even means. Like the Warp and Weft, it's a great band name. It's a great name for a venue, but what the hell does it mean? And then I realized, it has to do with knitting. Not what I would think, but okay, it works.
Yeah.
When we were looking around about the band, learning about Falsely Accused, one thing we saw was that you guys were actually featured on WBUR's 14 musicians from New England to listen to this winter. That's pretty high praise to get listed by WBUR. Getting that kind of thing, what's going through your heads?
I was excited to see it. It's an honor to be a part of that list. It's great to have someone listen to our record, the music that we created in that very smelly room in the barn, the big red barn, and have it be noticed by people at that level. It's an honor to be mentioned there. And I will be willing to play the Garden at any time. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the headlining arena tour. It's coming. We're just not there. We just haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow you'll get the call tomorrow.
Right. It could be tomorrow. You never know.
Exactly. I jest, but you never know. You might get the call from like, hey, this is so and so. How'd you guys? I'd like to play, the Garden tomorrow. Sure, why not?
I would clear my schedule. I would.
I would too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably in my spam email box. I just haven't checked it in a while.
Oh yeah, you gotta check the spam, man. You never know. How about just getting on the radio in general? Like, how do you guys go about doing that? Kind of like, what's your process for like sort of spreading the word about what you do?
It's hard. I think Matt does a lot of it, so I'll let you speak to it. But like, the first album, we just promoted the shit out of it ourselves, right? We put it kind of everywhere. Matt sent literally hard copies in mail to, I don't know, dozens of
literally everywhere. And everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people picked it up. A lot of internet radio picked it up. With this one, we started to get a lot more hits. We had an FM station in Austin, Texas, an FM station in Florida. We had a station in the UK. Then we had, WBUR, which was cool. And so to Matt's point, it's been like really rewarding to put all that work in and then actually start to see it go somewhere other than, your friends and family's car. And so that's been really cool. But Matt can speak to kind of like how he got the word out there and what the promotion looks like.
It was a lot of work trying to find an analogy that would fit it. We started working with Michael Murata from Nivet PR this time around. I know Michael through my own radio show. He sends me all the new music that comes out. And so when we were getting ready to push out Unbroken, I sent him an email and I'm like, hey, I got this thing going on. Tell me if you're interested or tell me to not, which is fine. Just, I wasn't sure what his process was like. And so we sat and talked. And so we started working with him. And of course, he's got incredible reach, which is amazing. And him and I, I have kind of a flexible work schedule most of the time. And so when it came to do single promotion, video promotion, the EP promotion, he and I kind of tag teamed that up. And so I found him indispensable, especially in the last month before the record came out, of all the stuff that had to go out. And if I was, away at work, he was able to really pick up the slack and help us out. And so working with him really helped up our PR game quite a bit. And then also get that reach to places that I'm for sure didn't know we existed, even through our own promotion, or maybe they were, they discount us as, oh, well, this is the guys we don't know, whatever. But, being able to work with someone like Michael was helped push us over the ledge a little bit to maybe get a couple extra ears that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise. And I'm grateful for that. I'll sing his praises all day. I think that it helped us, because at the end of the day, the most important thing to me was that people heard the record, right? You create a thing and you just want people to hear it. Like, no one's getting rich off it, but we want to share it. You don't create it just to keep it to yourself, right? You want to get it out into the world. And so he was integral in helping that happen.
Big shout out to Michael Murata, because he helped get this whole thing together. I mean, we've had a lot of guests on the show because of Michael. Of course, he was part of the Boston Phoenix for years, and then when that went away, he started up Vanyaland and then Nivet. So he's like the guy, I think, for like Boston and New England's like entertainment scene in general. So, and we love working with Michael.
I'd say he's like OG Boston music.
He really is, absolutely. And he's great to work with, definitely.
I honestly, I had the first time around, we didn't, but when you make your first record, or I may make some assumptions, but we didn't know anybody in the music scene at all. And, didn't even know to ask. And so I was lucky to have started working with him, on this other project and on the radio project. And that was like, I knew immediately, because the quality of stuff I was getting from him, and I still get from him, is fantastic. And so I thought, all right, well, we'll see. I'll ask him and see what he says. And we're very lucky to have found him this time around.
Absolutely. We are coming down to the end of this conversation. But of course, the big question before we wrap this all up is, what is next for the band?
World domination?
I like it. No. Go for that. Go for that.
Keep going with that idea.
Right.
I'll help. I'll help you.
Please do. I will take it. I think, I'll obviously let the boys sound off. I think, we're always looking for bigger and better shows. I love to play. I think we all love to play out. I love that experience. And so I think, we're just looking to share the music, more writing. I think we're in the studio tomorrow night. We're bouncing ideas and throwing stuff out and keeping it, we're starting that process again. And so more writing. I'd love to play more shows.
I mean, plus one to that, I think we have the most fun, I think, when we're out in front of people getting our music out there. And, even fortunate to sync up with a bunch of bands that are local, some that aren't, some that have, come from LA and other places and kind of make their way through, which has been cool. And yeah, I think to Matt's point, we want to play bigger venues, get our stuff out in front of more people. But I think like not at the expense of like who we are, right? Like, I think what's been really important is like, we want to grow, but not at the expense of our culture is like kind of the thing. What I would say is that like, it's more important, I think, that we're playing the stuff that we're really passionate about at places that we can have fun. And so yeah, just keep growing, keep releasing music, keep writing stuff that we're passionate about and see where it takes us. But what would you say, Mark?
I would agree with all that. Yeah. And I think to get to like the bigger shows, we need to like write more music and we need to play more. We're going to play more of the small shows. Like it all aggregates and it's kind of a lottery too, a little bit, sometimes like, oh, we played this one show and we hooked up with this one band that got us to open for this band. So like the more we do, I think it was Ben Franklin, I'm going to paraphrase him, but he had a quote, something like, I don't know how much luck has to do with success, or with work, but the more I work, the luckier I get. So it's like just the more you put into it, the greater chance you have of connecting somewhere. But bottom line, if we don't play out, if nobody listens to our music, like at least we are happy with our music, and that's why we go into the studio. It's almost like to have a record, well, literally a record of it to for posterity, instead of like, oh yeah, I remember 10 years ago when I played with this band, we had some recordings, but like this is something, it's presentable, it's the finished product, and I think we're like, if that's all that happens, I'm happy with that.
Well said, Mark. Well said.
I'm still in for world domination.
I mean, of course. After we're done here, we'll talk, we'll make some plans, and I personally would love to be the Archduke of the Eastern Seaboard. Just saying.
Listen, if you do that, you're gonna need to book me at the Garden. That's all.
Then I can do that because I'll own the entire thing. Well, folks, this has been the show. Big thanks to Falsely Accused for joining us, guys. Absolutely loving talking about the music and learning all these cool backstories for y'all. It's been a lot of fun. If you want to learn more, you go to falselyaccused.biz. Everything is there. And to close things out, we've got the song Witches from the EP Unbroken. And guys, you're going to love this one. Thank you all to the listeners for checking the show out. I'm your host, Max Bowen.
And I'm Curtis Hughes.
And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
And with that, we bring this episode to a close. Thanks for listening. And if you haven't already, check us out on Facebook under Citywide Blackout, and Twitter and Instagram under Citywide Max. You can catch this and all your favorite episodes on your favorite podcast platform. And new episodes are added every week, as well as on Boston Free Radio every Saturday at 10 p.m. You get at me at citywidemax@yahoo.com if you want us just a guest, submit your music, or just drop us a line. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Ain't nobody coming now, gonna save your soul. Don't worry.